because the body doesn't work as one single entity. It works as a multiple range of systems, right? So your gut is connected to your minerals are connected to your gut is connected to your brain is connected to your hormone signaling. All of these things go together. And so the problem is when doctors are just focusing on one single body system, let's say the skin for acne, but they're not looking at your gut health, they're not looking at your mineral status, they're not looking at your hormone patterns. That's why so many women are failed with these chronic underlying symptoms that they're dealing with. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of She's in Sync, the podcast for women looking to have a safe and a confident transition off of birth control and to learn how to heal their hormones naturally. Today, we're going to be talking about something that is rarely discussed, especially when women go to their doctor and they're experiencing all of these nasty symptoms post-birth control, something that is called post-birth control syndrome. And you may or may not have heard of this before. And I realized that I haven't done an episode specifically talking about this as like a term or like a diagnosis, even though I talk about it a lot. So we're going to be diving into what exactly post-birth control syndrome is, what can, like when it presents, what can cause it, and most importantly, how to navigate yourself out of that. And I'm going to be sharing some really exciting resources with you to help you ID what your root causes of your symptoms are. So to start, let's talk about what post-birth control syndrome is. So this is when you stop birth control and everything feels worse. So this looks different for every single person, as I want to just say this, but typically this looks like things like acne, heightened anxiety, missing or painful periods, bloating, fatigue, mood swings. Those are the typical symptoms that we see. We can also take it a step further and, see infertility or trouble getting pregnant after stopping birth control. So what I tell women is think about if you were put on birth control for a specific symptom, let's say it was acne, and you didn't do anything to get to the root, not your fault, but you weren't taught, right? Like birth control is just handed as like your solution. So you didn't fix the internal root causes of what's causing your acne to begin with. So if you stop birth control cold turkey without doing that, the acne is going to come back. And oftentimes it's going to come back even worse because it's adding fuel to the fire. It's depleting minerals. It's imbalancing your gut. It's making all those root causes of your acne worse by being on the birth control pill. Think about, what symptoms you started with before birth control and likely those same things coming back. And they might come back worse. And you might also have additional symptoms on top of it. So I know for me, my main concern was acne, and that happened. Plus, I got on birth control for an anovulatory. I wasn't having a period, so I was missing a period. So I did start bleeding right away, but then I later found out through hormone testing, my progesterone was like super low, so I wasn't actually ovulating. So that was a learning experience for me. And then my anxiety was really, really high. So those were my main 3 post-birth control syndrome symptoms. For you, it might look like really painful periods and mood swings or like bloating. It's very, very individualized. And I want to normalize that this isn't your body failing, because this happens to so many women, again, because we were put on birth control for so many reasons other than pregnancy prevention. It was used as a Band-Aid for so many years. And so when we get off, those symptoms come back and we're kind of like, well, shit. What am I supposed to do? And so a lot of women end up just like hopping back on the pill or getting their IUD back in because they feel desperate. They don't know what to do to fix it. And the only thing they've been told is, well, just you have to go back on birth control. That was my experience as well. Like I struggled for 4 years with post-birth control syndrome. In the depths of it, as a dietitian with a master's degree in nutrition, I had no clue what was happening in my own body until I learned about functional nutrition and I got specialized training. So I just want to normalize that, like, this is so common, but just because it's common doesn't make it normal. It shouldn't be happening. And It's just there's a lack of information and a lack of education of how to properly prep your body to safely come off birth control, to mitigate and make it so that post-birth control syndrome doesn't become your reality. So just a quick reassurance there. But, post-birth control syndrome isn't something likely your doctor is going to diagnose you with. And there's a couple different reasons for this. Because it's a cluster of symptoms, right? So I'll use myself as an example. So for me, it's acne, anxiety, and then lack of period, for lack of better words. So those are all treated in the medical community as separate things, right? I went to a dermatologist for my acne. I went to a therapist and was put on anxiety medication for my anxiety. So, and then for the period, it was kind of no one actually knew that was happening. I figured that out on my own because I was bleeding, so it was a little bit more nuanced. But no one looked at all these symptoms together. And that's a big problem because everything is so connected. I talked a couple weeks ago when I was going through how to know what labs you need, what kind of support you need when you're healing your hormones, when you're transitioning off of birth control. And I talked about how the more labs you run, the more you uncover, because the body doesn't work as one single entity. It works as a multiple range of systems, right? So your gut is connected to your minerals are connected to your gut is connected to your brain is connected to your hormone signaling. All of these things go together. And so the problem is when doctors are just focusing on one single body system, let's say the skin for acne, but they're not looking at your gut health, they're not looking at your mineral status, they're not looking at your hormone patterns. That's why so many women are failed with these chronic underlying symptoms that they're dealing with. And when they're just told go back on birth control, it's well, that's just suppressing things. That's just putting a Band-Aid back on. So that's the first thing. It's a cluster of symptoms that in the mainstream medical community, they're looked at in with blinders on, right? We just have blinders to this one symptom. And these symptoms they oftentimes happen after 3 to 6 months coming off birth control. So after getting your hormonal IUD removed, after stopping the pill. Most of the women I work with, it's pretty smooth sailing when they first get off. A lot of women are it feels great. At a couple weeks, and I'm good, but let's wait. I don't want to be negative Nancy here, but typically post-birth control syndrome happens. The symptoms start rearing their ugly heads 3 to 6 months after stopping. And that's because that's how long it takes your body to get rid of those artificial hormones and for your natural hormones to come back online. And that's just kind of when your whole body is coming back online. I use the analogy a lot of quitting birth control cold turkey is showing up to a marathon without any training. It's you could do it, but it's going to be rough and you're not going to feel great and you're probably never going to want to do that again. Versus if you plan and you train and you prep your body for that marathon, it's going to be a lot more enjoyable. It's going to be a lot better of an experience. It's going to be a lot smoother for you. So it's the same exact thing. So your body has to relearn how to produce and manage and balance its own hormones, and your other body systems are still reeling from the effects of birth control. So for example, your gut, right? Because birth control can encourage the growth of bad bacteria. It can discourage the growth of good bacteria, though there can be a lot of imbalances in the gut microbiome, which can lend itself to inflammation and lend itself to skin issues, painful periods, etc. And like I mentioned, post-birth control syndrome can be a variety of different symptoms. So it makes it harder for doctors to really pinpoint exactly what's going on. And doctors they aren't taught how to look underneath the hood at these things. So that's where working with a specialist like myself is really helpful, because the functional labs that I run identify, okay, what are your root causes of your symptoms? What is going on that's driving those things to begin with? And oftentimes those things have been there for a very, very long time. And then life and birth control adds fuel to that fire. And that, that little candle flame becomes this big, big fire that we're dealing with after stopping birth control. And, something that I also want to say with this is that just wait it out. Just wait it out is also, I would say, the most frustrating thing I hear women telling me that they got advice they get from their doctors is like, well, just stop and see what happens, or like take a multivitamin, you'll be fine. That annoys me. But then also the just wait and see what happens. And most of the time, this can come from doctors, but I see this a lot on Facebook groups. And I see this a lot on, like, I'm not on Reddit a lot, but like I see it on Reddit. Just other women giving advice to women who are posting about like dealing with these symptoms. They're like, well, like, yeah, it's rough. I've been there, but just like wait 6 months and for all the hormones to get out of your system. And I'm sorry, but that is not going to fix this woman's problem. Like, that is very poor advice. And also, we can't just judge based off our personal experience. Like, I get it. Like, that guides our advice and our judgment and what we believe to be true. I get that. And at the same time, everyone is so different. So maybe that worked for you, but I will tell you, just from clinical experience and working with so many women, if you just waited 6 months and all of your symptoms magically reverse themselves and you are like feeling your best, having really smooth periods that come on a 28-day clock, and your skin is super clear and you have zero inflammation, your mood is even keel, good for you. I'm happy for you, but that is not the majority of people. Most people, because those internal root causes weren't addressed, most people are stuck feeling awful for months after stopping. And it's not until, and even years, it's not until you get to the root of what's causing your symptoms. And I'm going to share a very exciting resource I have for you to help you ID what's causing your symptoms here in a bit at the end. So stick with me. It's about reversing that and getting to the root of that with a personalized plan. And then that's when true healing happens. That's when your skin starts to clear. That's when your periods start to come, on a regular basis versus, they're MIA and then they're here and then they're not here for 2 months. That's when things start to fix themselves. It's not just going to magically disappear for most people. So I really get frustrated with that advice because it really devalues, and it just keeps so many women stuck for just too long. Like, for me, I told you at the beginning of this episode, I was stuck in post-birth control syndrome for 4 years. I would probably still be in it. I mean, I know I would still be in it if it weren't for finding, the functional nutrition training that I had. And literally that changed my life. And that's what inspired me to open this business, because I realized all of those things could have been nipped in the bud very quickly. I mean, I could have spent a lot less money. I could have spent a lot less time. There would have been a lot less tears if I would have had this information. So that's my goal, is to help other women get this information in the hands of more women so they don't have to deal with that, right? So just stop and see what happens is horrible advice, but also just wait 6 more months for the hormones to get out of your system is also terrible advice as well. So what to actually do to fix post-birth control syndrome? So this is where we get to the root, right? This isn't about guessing. This isn't about symptom chasing anymore. This is about functional testing to identify what's causing your symptoms. So this is, I'm not going to go into all the tests. I have a couple different episodes. I'll link the one that I did a couple weeks ago about how to know what level of support you need and what lab testing I'd recommend depending on where you're at, where I go through like the specific labs and like specific programs and support options, as well as helping you identify like, okay, like, do you want a one-on-one coaching? Do you not want that? Do you want more of a DIY plan? How bad are your symptoms? How long you've been dealing with this? It really helps you identify that. So I'll link that below as well. But this could be things like hair tissue mineral analysis. This could be stool testing to see what's going on inside your gut. It could be testing like functional blood labs to see detox capacity. The list goes on and on. It just depends on what exactly your symptoms are. And so once you get that data from the testing, that's when things shift. And that's when you know exactly what foods you need to focus on, okay? What foods do you need to incorporate more of? What supplements are actually going to move the needle for you? I will tell you, so many women are on so many supplements that they don't need. They're wasting so much money on something that's not helping them, and they're still feeling bad. So I love going through supplements and being like, you don't need this, don't take this, don't take this. Here's like a list and giving them like strategic, here are the supplements that are actually going to help you target your root causes. And then this is, it might be specific protocols, which are going to repair your gut to help rid your body of excess copper to restore your iodine. And it could also be lifestyle things, looking at stress regulation, nervous system. I love, love, love talking to clients about this because I get it. I'm like a type A perfectionist. This is like the unsexy stuff, but it truly makes such a difference. So when we can be realistic about it, and I also want to say, like, when you have a plan and you have an expert in your corner, like telling you, hey, this is what we need to do, that in and of itself takes a lot of stress off of people because they're not shooting in the dark anymore. They're not guessing. They're not going down ChatGPT rabbit holes at like midnight again. So it's not a one size fits all protocol. It's really healing that is strategic and personalized based on what your root causes are. So a couple resources I want to share with you. The first is I created a free resource. I honestly can't believe I'm giving it away for free, but it is my root cause roadmap. And what this is essentially is it is a document that I created that takes you step by step. It's divided into different symptoms. So like acne, PMS, anxiety, painful periods, endometriosis. And it basically tells you why those symptoms are happening. And it gives clear explanations of what your symptoms are actually telling you. So is it mineral depletion? Is it gut issues? Is it thyroid dysfunction? Is it a copper imbalance? And then the hidden patterns I see most often in women coming off of birth control, and a clear roadmap for what needs supported so your period, your skin, and your mood can stabilize naturally. And then a breakdown of the functional lab tests I recommend to identify your unique root causes. So that way you're not guessing or chasing symptoms anymore, like I mentioned earlier. So this is the exact framework that I use with my private coaching clients, now in a simple, easy to understand guide that you can save and reference as you prepare to come off birth control. So that is in the link that link is in the show notes. I also want to encourage you, if you haven't yet, to listen to the Breakup with Birth Control Masterclass, also in the show notes, because that is going to give you, first and foremost, you can still use this if you have already stopped birth control. So if you're listening to this and you're like, shit, I'm in post-birth control syndrome, like that's probably the majority of you is you're in it right now. That's why you maybe are hearing rumblings about it and you searched it until you found this. That is, you're just going to reverse engineer it. But I take you through real client case studies, through their labs, through their protocols, and take you really step by step of like, okay, here's what I recommend doing to reverse engineer to heal your body, heal your symptoms. So that's a great resource in combination with the root cause roadmap. They're really synergistic in that way. The other thing with that too is if you are prepping to stop birth control, the Breakup with Birth Control Masterclass is very, very helpful as well. Because same thing, what do you need to do to prep your body before? Ideally, it would be great, and that's my goal, is to get this information out into the world so more women know you can avoid post-birth control syndrome versus people finding it after the fact. But I want women to know, like, this is something you don't have to deal with. This is something that is not just a given when you stop birth control, because there are so many women that are so scared to stop. You might be in that situation now. You might have been in that situation before. You might know someone who's in that situation, which send them this podcast so they can have some hope with that. But these two resources are really helpful for you to have a clear plan of like what you need to test, when you need to prepare, what you need to do. And then from there, if you want to get those tests done, if you want a personalized plan, then that's something that I would be happy to help with. You're welcome to schedule a free consultation call where you can chat through things and see if working together would be the perfect fit. But overall, the recap from this episode is that post-birth control syndrome is avoidable. However, this is the importance of prepping to come off birth control versus just stopping cold turkey. So if you take anything away from this, if you haven't already stopped birth control, watch that Breakup with Birth Control Masterclass and take a peek at that. If you've already stopped, look at that root cause roadmap. Look at both resources. They're both really, really helpful. And this can be reversed. That's another thing I want to say, is that this can be reversed with the right tools and the right plan. And that's where enlisting some expert support to get the labs done, to get that personalized plan is so, so helpful. Because again, trust me, I wish I had someone like myself back then, because then I would have spent, way less money, way less time, way less tears in actually fixing my body. And I would not, but at the same time, hindsight's 2020, right? Like, it made me so passionate about this work and helping other women. And I'm helping other women change their lives in the process from my negative experience. So everything happens for a reason, right? This was meant to really educate you on why you're experiencing those symptoms. And again, it's very common, but it's not normal. And there are things you can do to fix it. So if you know someone who's dealing with this, or if you know someone who is contemplating stopping birth control, send them this podcast, send them these resources. And hopefully this inspires more women to confidently transition off of birth control and not be scared of what will happen. Thank you so much for listening. And if you like this episode as well, please leave a 5-star review, comment on YouTube, send me a DM. I really, really appreciate any and all feedback from you guys, or if there's any topics that you want me to speak more to, I am happy to do that. I always love hearing anything. Sometimes it feels like I'm talking to the abyss. So if you have, a moment, I would really appreciate that. And until next time, stay nourished, friends.